Today is November 17th. It's the 322nd day of the year, and this is the On This Day podcast. On this day in 1953, the last inhabitants of the Blasket Islands, a cluster of islands off the southwest coast of Ireland, are permanently evacuated to the mainland. The community has dwindled from 176 inhabitants at its peak in 1916 to now less than 24 inhabitants, mostly elderly. For their safety, their evacuation is ordered by the Irish government, and on this day in 1953, the last of the Blasketers make their final trip to the mainland where they spend the remainder of their days. The Blasket Islands are first inhabited by this particular community of people in the early 19th century, settlers seeking a better way of life after being evicted by the prominent County Kerry land baron Lord Ventry. They build a community that is self-sufficient and self-governing, still within eyesight of the land they left behind, but separated by the great divide of the treacherous waters of the Atlantic Ocean. In times of harsh weather, the 3-mile journey to the mainland may as well be 3,000 miles. Island life is a constant struggle. For generations, the islanders work the inhospitable rocky land, farm the waters around them, and scavenge the remains of nearby shipwrecks. They are dependent upon each other for their survival. They acknowledge one of their own as their leader, a respected member of the community who they refer to as Henri, the king. The isolation of the islands makes for an insulated community, one that by nature maintains the old traditions, the culture, the language, the music. After British rule takes hold in Ireland, the Blaskets are one of the few remaining places where the Irish language is still spoken, what we Americans call Gaelic. Scholars make the pilgrimage into the Blaskets to study the language in its pure form, and the spoken word is followed by the written word as a number of Blasket Islanders take up the pen and write down their life stories. The works of these noted Irish authors, such as Peig Sayers and Thomas O'Crowan, the Island Man, are still read in Ireland's public schools to this day. Soon after the population peaks in 1916, the young Blasketers begin leaving the islands to pursue opportunity in America and a better way of life. By the 1950s, the mass emigration out from the Blaskets leaves a small population of just 22 inhabitants, for whom life on the desolate archipelago is deemed too dangerous. They are often storm-bound in the islands, and in 1947, during one storm that lasts for weeks, they run desperately low on provisions and send a telegram to Eamon de Valera, the head of the Irish government, the Taoiseach, urgently requesting supplies which arrive by boat a few days later. That same year, in 1947, one of the few young Blasketers remaining in the island, 24-year-old Sean O'Carna, dies of meningitis, cut off from access to medical care during the storm. After the tragedy of 1947, talk begins in earnest about relocating the islanders to the town of Dunquin at the tip of the Dingle Peninsula in Ireland, in direct line of sight across the 3-mile span of water from the Blaskets. Taoiseach de Valera orders the evacuation of the islands, and on this day in 1953, more than a century and a half after their ancestors fled the mainland for the freedom of the islands, the last of the Blasketers come ashore to begin their new lives in specially built cottages in Dunquin. Though they've only traveled 3 miles to their new homes, life in Dunquin is a bit of a culture shock for the islanders. Garrett O'Cahan, the last child born in the Blaskets, is the only child left on the island when they evacuate. The press dubs him the loneliest boy in the world. He recalls the experience of resettlement. Quote, "An islander is a different animal from the mainlander. He's isolated. There's complete silence on the Blasket Islands, and that total silence and peace and tranquility that's associated with these remote areas has a fascination for people. For us as islanders, I suppose we didn't really think about it, but we did stand out in the crowd. We weren't great mixers when we went to the mainland. We went to Mass, we knew our friends and relations, and apart from going to Dingle to sell our sheep or fish or wool, we didn't mix much really. Other than Garrett O'Cahan, there are few, if any, Blasket Islanders alive today, but their descendants are many, scattered to all parts of the world. If you'll indulge a shameless plug, I just finished a documentary about two of those descendants, great-great-grandsons of the last king of the Blasket Islands, both surfers who have devoted their lives to the water, much like their ancestors, each unaware of the other's existence, who meet for the first time in Ireland, discover their shared identity shaped by those who came before them, and surf their ancestral waters. It's called The Crest. It's a great film, and it's coming soon to a film festival and streaming service near you. If you ever find yourself on the Dingle Peninsula in County Kerry, Ireland, you should check out the Blasket Centre. It's a fantastic museum dedicated to the stories and lives of the islanders. And if the seas are passable, you absolutely must take a day trip out to the Great Blasket Island, the main island. It is a truly enchanted setting, unlike any place you will ever experience. There are 44 days left in the year. On This Day is produced by me, Dave Schultz. Thank you very much for listening. Here's a song I wrote for our film, The Crest.